So let's talk about case studies. You see, from a client's point of view, when we make a promise at a listing appointment, they want to see some kind of evidence to show that that's actually true. And unfortunately, don't take this personally, the filter that someone goes through when you say, we're going to do this, we're going to put this in place, we're going to do this, it comes through a filter of doubt. Now, of course, if it's a repeat client or a referral, that might be different. But what we want to do is cover all bases. And the way to do that is by using an impressive case study. So a couple of key points around case studies. You can have success stories and also horror stories. Tend to use your competitors' horror stories, not your own. And a success story is literally where you're walking someone through that particular strategy. Now, what I notice in my listing critiques is so often an agent thinks they're sharing a case study, but you're actually sharing a result. Did you see the property around the corner? We sold that for a great price. That's not a case study, that's a result. The case study is, how did it actually happen? What happened behind the scenes? What was the marketing program? What was the buyer interest in the property? What was the first offer that a buyer put in on the property? What was the eventual sale price? How did we actually go through that? Now, a couple of key points with case studies. Promises into evidence, so we want to make sure the evidence is relevant to the client. Therefore, I've seen agents use their favourite case study, wrong strategy, versus a relevant case study. Now, if the favourite case study happens to be relevant, well, great, use it. But if you're talking about someone who's got a 4-bedroom apartment or a freestanding home, and you're talking an apartment that you've sold, that doesn't actually add any value. In actual fact, it potentially causes the client to think you're not a specialist and you're not able to have got the track record in terms of selling this kind of property. So make sure it's relevant. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be yours. It could be someone in your office where you're borrowing a case study that they've sold a property effectively, and you're walking through that particular process. It is simple to do, but let me tell you, the more you can walk through a case study, and literally, the case study should marry the strategy, the recommendations, the plan you have for this particular owner. It just becomes so easy. Now, where would you use a horror story? You'd use a horror story when someone didn't take your advice, they didn't take on board your recommendations, they went with someone else, and literally after 3 months they came back to you, throwing their hands in the air and say, please, what do I need to do to get my property sold? That would be a horror story turned success story. And we took it on board and we sold it within the next 2 weeks. That's a fantastic kind of strategy. Now, don't use too many horror stories to success stories. Mainly focus on a case study that allows you to walk through. And the only other tip here is, don't say, let's talk about a case study. I'd like to share with you a property we sold recently that has got some similarities to your property. So it needs to have a similarity in terms of price point, a similarity in property type and market conditions to be able to really add value. Enjoy the conversation talking about how you can supercharge your case studies. Thanks for tuning in.